पुनः मैं आपके सामने साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी के टॉपिक के साथ एंड टुडे टॉपिक of the talk is sand and dust storms and the challenges posed by sand and dust storms. This is the topic. So now come to the context. Here is even a concern and United Nations concern is with respect to sand and dust storms, बालू और धूल जिसमें हो वैसे स्टॉर्म्स फ्रिक्वेंसी बढ़ गई है और साथ साथ इंटेंसिटी बढ़ गई है. टॉपिक क्यों चुना मैंने? बिकॉज इट इज़ देयर इन द न्यूज़ and it's a big concern on the part of international organizations, United Nations. And the points of concern are: number one, increase in the frequency; number two, intensity of sand and dust storms in recent years. This is the point. Now come to know about sand and dust storms. Sand and dust storms are common meteorological hazards in arid and semi-arid regions. Usually it's caused by thunderstorms or strong pressure gradients associated with cyclones, and this increased wind speed over a wide area. So the sand and dust storms are common meteorological hazards in arid and semi-arid regions. It's usually caused by thunderstorms or a strong pressure gradients linked with cyclones, which increase wind speed over the wide area. Next point, sand and dust storms. Strong winds lift large amounts of sand and dust from where dry soils into the atmosphere. स्वाभाविक है, काफ़ी जो तेज़ हवा होगी वो साइक्लोन होंगे, तेज़ हवा चलेंगी, आंधी होंगे, उसके साथ सैंड एंड डस्ट बालू और धूल के कण जो होंगे वो काफ़ी दूर जाएंगे. इवन इट इज़ ऑल सरप्राइजिंग एट नोइंग दैट द हंड्रेड्स or thousands of kilometers could be thrown away, dust and the sands along with the cyclones or the speedy wind. So strong winds lift large amounts of sand and dust from where dry soils into the atmosphere, and it could transport them hundreds to thousands kilometers away. See, now its impact, the impact of sand and dust storms on weather, climate, environment. Second point, condensation nuclei for cloud formation affecting the amount and location of precipitation. जैसे पुनः मैं बता दूं कि मैं सिर्फ बुलेट पॉइंट्स ही मैं रख रहा हूं, जो इम्पॉर्टेंट पॉइंट्स है जो आप याद रख पाएंगे और जो आप मेंस में एग्ज़ाम में भी लिख पाएंगे और पीटी पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से इम्पॉर्टेंट होगा. इन्हीं बातों को ध्यान में रख करके जो जो मेन पॉइंट्स है, यू कैन कॉल इट द बुलेट पॉइंट्स, जो आपके पास मैं रख रहा हूँ. सो सैंड एंड डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स, इट्स इम्पैक्ट on weather, climate, environment. Next, condensation nuclei for cloud formation, affecting the amount and location of precipitation. Next point, airborne dust exists in a manner similar to greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect की जो भूमिका होती है, वही भूमिका हमारे जो हवा में जो डस्ट पार्टिकल्स होते हैं उनकी होती है. सो इफेक्ट्स द एनर्जी रीचिंग द अर्थ सरफेस. स्वाभाविक है, ग्रीन हाउस गैसेस की वजह से जो हमारे अर्थ सरफेस पे जो एनर्जी आते हैं सूर्य से, अफेक्टेड होते हैं. फिर रेडिएशन भी अफेक्टेड होते हैं. द सेम वे शाइन एंड डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स आर रिकरिंग इन्वायरमेंटल फेनोमेनन which reduce air quality and visibility. So this is the information about and knowledge about the sand and dust storms. Airborne dust exists in a manner similar to greenhouse effect. Greenhouse effect को आपको अलग से ही पढ़ लेना चाहिए. Second point, show affects the energy reaching the earth surface. Third point, sand and dust storms are recurring environmental phenomenon which reduce air quality and visibility. Now come to the impact of sand and dust storms on human health. This depends upon the particle size or the dimension of the dust or the sand particles. If the particle size, say R, is greater than 10 micrometer, right? These particles are not to breathe and hence can damage only external organs. वैसे डस्ट और फिर सैंड पार्टिकल्स जिनका डायमेंशन, जिसका साइज 10 माइक्रोमीटर से ज़्यादा है, वे हमें एक्सटर्नल जो ऑर्गन्स होते हैं उनको अफेक्ट करता है. अ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंट. particle size are greater than 10 micrometer, are greater than 10 micrometer. This will affect only external organs. Okay. Now come to the particle size of the sand or the dust particles less than 10 micrometer. Often get trapped in the nose, mouth and upper respiratory tract, and thus can be associated with respiratory disorders like asthma, etc. Now come to, if the particle size is less than 10 micrometer, these particles will be trapped in the nose, mouth and upper respiratory tract, and thus it will be linked to respiratory disorders like asthma. So these are the points. See, now come to the impact of SDS, sand and dust storms, on marine ecosystems or the land ecosystem. Point shell surface dust deposits are the source of micronutrients for both continental and maritime ecosystems. Second point, for instance, Saharan dust is considered to fertilize the Amazon rainforest. So this is the पॉजिटिव साइड ऑफ सैंड एंड डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स. ये सैंड एंड डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स का फ़ायदा है ये. सो दीज आर पॉजिटिव साइड. सरफेस डस्ट डिपॉजिट्स आर द सोर्स ऑफ माइक्रोन्यूट्रिएंट्स फॉर बोथ कॉन्टिनेंटल एंड मैरीन इकोसिस्टम्स. फॉर इंस्टेंस, Saharan dust is considered to fertilize the Amazon rainforest. This is the positive side of sand and dust storms. However, there are the negative sides also, and dust would have the adverse impact on agriculture, कृषि पर, food security जो हमारे खाद्य सुरक्षा है, and it would reduce crop yields as well by burying the seedlings. So these are the negative sides. Adverse impact. Dust has adverse impact on agriculture, food security, and this would reduce crops yield. जो उत्पादन होगा उसको भी कम कर देगा. रीजन है by burying the seedlings. Next, come to more points. It would cause loss of plant tissue, reduce photosynthetic activity, and increasing soil erosion. These are the adverse impact, negative impact of sand and dust storms. So it causes loss of plant tissue, reduce photosynthesis activity, and third one would increase soil erosion. Now come to the primary hot spots of dust storms. ये जो हमारे डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स के हॉट स्पॉट्स कहाँ कहाँ हैं? तो फर्स्ट शी है प्राइमरी हॉट स्पॉट्स of dust storms, Saharan Desert, Middle East, Taklamakan Desert. It's in northwest China, southwest Asia, central Australia, Ethiopia and Madagascar basins of southern Africa, Shalal de Uyuni in Bolivia, and Great Basin in the United States. So these are the hot spots of sand and dust storms. You can get many more points from there. So that's why see the page again, or the slide again, and I will move on to the next. Okay. Now again, to come to the event concerns, around 2 million tons of sand and dust enter the atmosphere annually. हर साल 2 million ton sand and dust atmosphere में आते हैं. And next, human-induced climate change has increased the frequency and intensity of SDS. So even concerns, around 2 million tons of sand and dust enter the atmosphere annually. Next point, human-induced climate change has increased the frequency and intensity of sand and dust storms. Impact next. Impact on all regions of the world, whether it is the developed or developing countries, both the regions are being affected by SDS. Next point, often originate in dry land areas, which covers 41% of the Earth's land surface and comprise some of the most fragile ecosystems highly susceptible to a global climate change. So these are the points. See the page. Now, SDS and SDG, sand and dust storms and sustainable development goals. Out of 17 sustainable goals, 11 are linked to sand and dust storms. See the list here. So at least 11 or 17 SDG are linked to sand and dust storms. So come to the first SDG. This is the first Sustainable Development Goal on ending poverty. पहला क्या है? हमारा जो पहला सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स है यूएन का, जस्ट टू एंड पॉवर्टी, गरीबी को दूर करना. एंड दिस SDG 1 इज एसोसिएटेड विथ सैंड एंड डस्ट स्टॉर्म्स, राइट? If there is overall adverse impact of SDG, naturally this will impact the finance also, and once the finance is adversely affected, then it's very difficult to eradicate the poverty, which is the aim of even Sustainable Development Goal number 1, to end poverty. Number 2, SDG 2 on ending hunger. Third, health for all. Six, वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन. इसके माध्यम से आप ये भी जान पा रहे हो कि सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट के किस पॉइंट में क्या है. SDG, इवन SDG 6 क्या है वहाँ पे? इट इज़ लिंक टू वाटर एंड सैनिटेशन. Then come to 8, SDG 8, inclusive and sustainable development growth. SDG 11, sustainable cities. 13, SDG 13, climate action. SDG 15, combating desertification and land degradation. So this is the SDG 8, this is 11, sustainable cities, 13, climate action, and 15, combating desertification and land degradation. Now, more points are there. Effect especially Africa and Middle East, where desertification is most common. However, global recognition of SDG as a hazard is generally low. So these are the points here. Affect especially Africa and Middle East, where desertification is most common. And next point, however, global recognition of SDG as a hazard is generally very low. Now come to way forward and steps taken. Sand and dust storms definitely pose a great challenge as a threat to sustainable development of countries and regions affected. This is even recognition 2015 या 2015 का कंसर्न है जो आज बढ़ ही रहा है ये. So way forward and steps taken. Sand and dust storms pose a great challenge to sustainable development of countries and regions affected. This is even recognition 2015. The first ever International Day of, second point, steps taken are a part of way forward. The first ever International Day of combating Sustainable Development Goal was observed, sand and dust storm, The first ever International Day of Combating Sand and Dust Storms was observed on July 12, 2013 by मीन्स इसी महीने 12 तारीख को, इसी महीने 12 तारीख को UN Conservation to Combat Desertification, UNCCD. So this point, see, the first ever International Day of Combating Sand and Dust Storms was observed on July 12, 2023, and this observance is by UN Conservation to Combat Desertification, UNCCD. This important abbreviation as well. Next, arresting land degradation. Next, achieving sustainable development goals and reducing the occurrence and impact of sand and dust storms in affected areas. So see, arresting land degradation, achieving sustainable development goal and reducing the occurrence and impact of, mistake here, sand and dust storms. So see, now come to sand and dust storm policy and planning to reduce societal vulnerability by mitigating the wind erosion. At this point, a multi-sectoral process bolstered by information. Second point, sharing to involve short-term and long-term interventions to engage multiple stakeholders and raise awareness towards SDG, sand and dust storms. That is the point. Now to sum up, addressing sand dust storms needs an integral approach which involves sustainable land management, climate change mitigation, and adaptation, disaster risk reduction, including early warning systems and international cooperation. So just to bind up the lecture, point is, addressing sand and dust storms requires an integral approach. It would involve sustainable land management. Second point, climate change mitigation. Third point, adaptation. And fourth one, disaster risk reductions. It would include early warning systems and international cooperation as well. That's all for the day. Thanks for giving me a patience listening. Tomorrow, in the same time duration, I would be before you with another topic. पुनः मैं कहूँगा कि आपका विश्वास, आपका कोऑपरेशन, आपका कमेंट्स, अगर आप अधिक से अधिक इस लेक्चर को अगर शेयर करते हैं, कमेंट करते हैं, तो निश्चित रूप से जो टीम हमारी है उसका ही मनोबल बढ़ेगा और फिर आपके लिए बेहतर काम कर सकेंगे. ऑल द बेस्ट. सी यू टुमारो.